Everybody's gonna think I'm drinking a drink.
Welcome back to another episode of A Couple of Subs. I'm your host, Cody Crane, and with me as always, my lovely co-host, Kristen Crane, aka Kiki.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Couple of Subs. So on our podcast today, we actually have the privilege of interviewing this guy for the second time around. We had him on season 2. He's a good friend of ours, professional athlete, Mr. Brandon Killer B. Davis. Welcome to the show.
What's up? Appreciate y'all having me on.
Man, yeah, thanks for letting us crash your day. I really appreciate it. But yeah, like Kristen said, Brandon, this is his second time on. And if you haven't already, definitely need to go back. At season 2, it's called Business and Beatdowns with UFC's Brandon Killer B. Davis. We get on there, we talk about his awesome company, Savage Association, and all the great things that he's done through that. Like, definitely go check that one out for sure.
So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about his return to the UFC and what he's learned from his past experiences, overcoming adversity and all sorts of fun stuff. So let's just dive on right into this, right?
Yes, I am. I am ready to dive into this. And my first question, I know, just being buddies with you, I kind of have a little bit of an idea about it, but I bet the listeners would love to hear. Like, just tell us a little bit about, like, what does it take to get into the UFC? Like, that's a humongous deal.
Man, you talking about for the first time?
Yeah,
Man, I have a bunch of people ask me that. What do you gotta do to get in the UFC? How does it work? Like, do you have to go to them? Like, no, you can't go to them. You have to just go through your amateur fights, win, lose, whatever. Those ones don't really matter. Of course, you want to have a good winning record for that, just to make you feel better and you know when you're ready to go pro. And then you move up to your pros, and that's when everything counts. You could have lost 20 fights as an amateur, but none of those pass over to pro. You go pro, clean slate. So you go pro, of course you're going to start out fighting somebody about the same record. You might fight somebody 1-1 or 1-0 or 0-1, but it's going to be pretty close, maybe 0-2 max. I fought somebody 1-0 in my first fight. And then you're going to work your way up as you win. If you lose, you kind of stay right around there. But you want to work your way up slow because you don't want to start out with a bad record, because then it's hard to overcome that. You see people in the UFC right now still only have like 3 losses and stuff. All right, 21-3. Well, if you start out fighting just killers right out of the gate, you're going to have 8 losses in the beginning. And yeah, there's people that overcome that, like Anthony Lionheart Smith. He's one of those. He had a terrible record in the beginning, but he ended up doing pretty good, working his way back. But that's not what you want to do. You want to have as many fights as you can in the beginning that are around your level, and then you start working your way up when you feel like you start winning and beating people pretty decisively. You try to up your, I guess, level as opponent that you're going against, and then from there you try to fight. I guess how I did it, I try to fight the best people around, because if I can't beat the people that aren't in the UFC, how am I supposed to beat the people that are in the UFC? And that worked out for me. So
that's what I've always kind of thought about fighting, or the way you've explained it to me before, kind of like bull riding. The best cowboy in the world could get paired up with the worst bull in the world. And if that bull just walks out the gate and stands there and wags his tail, that cowboy ain't getting no points. You know, you gotta go up against those tough ones.
Hey, that's how it was with me on the Contender Series. I got lucky to have somebody else that was willing to fight. On that show, if you get in off the Contender Series, you either have to go knock somebody out, do something crazy, or you have to have a war. And luckily I had somebody that was willing to go to war with me, so that helped me get in, and they liked that.
So that was like, you went through those amateur years and, you know, went through the professional years also outside the UFC. When you got your shot, it was balls to the wall.
Oh yeah,
Austin Arnett, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. How Sean Shelby was telling my manager back then, was like, he's like the next Conor McGregor, and the dude is really good. But I think he was 15-1 or 15-2. He's like on a 13 fight win streak with 12 first round knockouts or something. So he'd been knocking everybody out. So they're like, oh, he didn't stand a chance and all this. So, I mean, go in there and I fight good people. I've been fighting good people, so I'm not scared of anybody.
So how long ago is that? Like you fought Austin Arnett and then you got your first contract with the UFC back in, when was that?
2017.
I got
4
you.
years ago.
Okay.
August of 2017.
So, you know, you spend some time in the UFC and then your last fight in the UFC, walk us through that. Like, did they tell you, kind of like what, like whenever you got put back in MMA or whatever, I don't know how you worded that.
No, you just
So-
the regional scene.
Okay.
So I guess kind
Get
of
released.
what Kristen was trying to say was like from Austin Arnett, from the time when you won that fight, kind of walk us through your career. You know,
Well, in my mind, the UFC, after I beat Austin Arnett and they liked my style and everything, they wanted to they try to groom you. They try to groom people that they like to become like a star. You know what I mean? Now you have to win the fights, to become the
you
star.
gotta have that swag.
They're like that too. But you have to win the fights that they give you, and they're gonna try to give you fights that they think you can win. But they're still gonna be tough fights. You're not gonna fight anybody in the UFC that's not good.
They want to show.
They just want you to win, and yeah, if you put on a show, it's even better. But they're gonna groom you like they did John O'Malley and like they did Conor McGregor and everybody that they've done to try to become a star. And they were trying to do that with me, but then I went out there and I lost my first fight. Like they put me on I was the main spot right before the pay-per-view main event card, and the guy I fought literally just ran away the whole time in Boston.
I was
Then
there.
I thought I won. I outstruck him, taking him down when he took me down and everything. I don't know. But it came back to be a loss. So then they gave me a short notice fight a couple of weeks later.
I bet that first guy, he was really good at tag growing up. He could get away with running like.
He's from Boston, so we called him the Boston Marathon.
But sorry to cut you off, good, bro.
Nah, so then after that, I got lucky. They're trying to offer Jason a fight, a short notice fight. And I'm like, Jason hasn't been training, but Brandon's already like, well, Brandon just fought 2 weeks ago. He didn't take any damage. I literally got hit like 28 times or something easy.
If I get hit 28 times, brother, I'm probably going to the house, sit on the back porch, drink beer for a couple of days before I come back outside.
Well, they gave me that. They ended up giving me that. I won fight of the night. Got a message from Dana like, man, I know you really wanted that after that last fight and everything. And then I had another guy that was really good, Enrique Barzola. He's a wrestler, and I tried to go out there and wrestle with him, and he beat me in the wrestling part. So he ended up winning the decision. And I thought it was a beat. Who was like ended up being top 2 in 145 division. And I was winning that fight in the first round. Second round, he ended up submitting me at the end with that solid stretch. And then after that, I went down to 135, and I went down to 135 pounds.
What was that, having to make that change like that? I mean, of course, it's not something you wanted to do.
No, my coach has been wanting me to do that, and I was like, oh, I'll try it. I used to tell him
It's like making sacrifices to get where you want to be type deal, you know what I mean?
well, so it's like a lifestyle change. You can't just.
Yeah.
I wasn't drinking beer every day. Like when I was at 45, I could do whatever I want. I didn't make 45 in 2 days. Just go sweat out a bunch. Can't do that at 135. But so it's more of a lifestyle change. But my coaches have been wanting me to do that, like try it outside of the UFC before I even made it. And I was like, man, I think about trying to make 135. I said maybe if I ever make it to the UFC, and I eventually did. I was like, I don't want to do it right now. Then I finally did, and it worked out, and I went 1-1 in the UFC. That the one that I won, I finished, and then the other one was a split decision loss that a lot of people thought I won. But at 135, I'm 3-1 with all finishes, and my one loss is a split decision loss against a guy that's almost top 10 right now. He's doing really good. So I mean, it all worked out. And then the last fight in the UFC, I was on my honeymoon in Hawaii, and I got a call from my manager, and he was like, man, you want this fight? It's in a week and a half or something. Your boy was fat.
Drinking Mai Tais on the
Yeah.
beach,
Fat.
dog.
Well, the thing was too, I also just got done fighting at 135, like not even a month before. So after you get that cutting weight like that, your body like blows up a little bit. So I was like 175.
Woman.
I was 175, so getting down to 145 for that fight was a tough one. But then I fought the dude Giga Chikati. He's like, I want to say he's top 5 right now in the UFC. So I fought really good people. My first stint in there, at the time, nobody knew they were really good, other than the beat. But everybody that I fought since has done really good, and are almost all ranked right now. So when you go back and you see that, you're like, oh man, he either lost a close split decision loss on like a week's notice or 2 weeks' notice and never got in full fight camps, or he won. So I guess they were like, we need to give him another shot.
Well, that's actually what I was trying to say. Like what I really meant earlier was like after your last fight in the UFC, after that stint, did they kind of tell you like or coach you on like what all you needed to do in order to get a contract?
No. So I mean, of course they're gonna tell you just go out and get a couple wins and we'll get you back.
Yeah.
They tell you that. They tell everybody that.
Yeah.
But what sucked about that is, they didn't tell me that I'm go get some wins. Of course, that's what you have to do. Get back in, you gotta win. But that fight was called a draw during the fight. Then 15 minutes later, I'm backstage doing some interviews, and Sean Shelby comes up and he tells me that it was changed to a split decision loss. So I immediately knew whenever he told me that I was going to get cut. Like, he didn't say that then or anything like that. I'm sure he won't ever say that to somebody right there in their face. You either. For one,
You just knew.
yeah. For one, you don't want to piss off the fighter that just found out that he got a loss.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Because then it might not go well for you.
Might
Two,
be around the house.
yeah. But so I knew from right there, I was like, yeah, I already knew I was getting cut. So it wasn't like, and I knew going into that fight, not that they told me, I just knew. And I had interviews after that, and people were like, are you surprised? And a lot of people were really surprised because I did so many short notice fights for them that I was helping them out so much they were surprised. And all the fights were super close. So everybody was surprised when I got cut. But
Keeping the show going.
What I mean, if I could take a fight on a week's notice and fight somebody that's really good, and if they barely win or becomes a draw and then they change it later on or whatever, then people are like, there's no way you should get cut. But in my mind, I knew it was getting cut, so it wasn't a surprise to me. I knew what I had to do, and no, they don't tell you what to do. I just like, all right, I can come out here. I'm gonna not take it easy first fight. I'm gonna fight somebody that's good, Brad Kelly, and then I'm gonna work my way up and fight harder, just like when you start out. Work your way up and fight tougher and tougher people. You don't want to come back to the first fight right out of the UFC and fight somebody that's 26-0 or something. You want to try to fight somebody that's like 10-5. They got like double record. Like,
Every time I've seen you fight, after your last UFC fight, it's been a title fight, right?
no. I've had 2 title fights. I've had 4 fights out of the UFC.
Okay.
2 title fights. One was at 155, and the dude made 176 pounds. So we
Charged him $100 a pound.
Well, they told me I could take his whole purse if I wanted to still fight, and I was like, man, I came here to fight, so I'm fighting somebody. And I only took half of his purse. I could have took all of his money, but I just took half of it, and ended up winning that one. And then the next one was the title fight at 135. So I fought somebody at 176, and the next fight I fight somebody at 135. And then the next one was at 145, and then the last one was at 135.
What is that like mentally for you? I mean, you know, you work so hard and then you get cut, if you will, from UFC, and then having to work your way back. And how is that? Kind of walk us through that. I mean, I know it's tough physically, yes, but.
It would have been tough if it was like something that I wasn't expecting, but since I knew that, in my mind, I knew I was getting cut, so it wasn't like anything hard. I knew I had to get my ass back to work, and then that was it. Get back to work, win some fights. If you lose one, then you better win 3 more in front of that, or after that. So that's all I knew is get out here and win. If you lose one, make sure you have at least 3 wins for that 1 loss. You know what I mean? So if I end up winning 3 fights and then losing 1, I need to win 3 more.
Yeah.
So I need to be 6-1 outside of the UFC since then. But luckily, I won all 4, and changed a lot of things. I feel like I've gotten so much better since I've been out of the UFC, but and had to overcome like a lot of injuries and stuff, and so I don't know, it all worked out.
So that's what you kind of led me right into my next question. I was about to ask you, like, so coming from your UFC contract, whenever they told you, like, you know, go in a couple fights, come back, was that? So what lessons did you learn from whenever you were in the UFC on that contract? What lessons did you learn there that you think will carry on throughout your career?
What do you mean lessons?
I mean, maybe taking fight on short notice.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
No.
you know, things
Yeah.
like that. Like, what kind of those lessons did you take from that you think will only make you better in the future?
It's a business.
It's a business.
It's a business. It doesn't matter how much you help them out. Whenever it's time, whenever they're done with you, they're done with you. I can help them out 8 times out of 10. If I need help, that doesn't mean they're
It
gonna
ain't that good old boy deal.
Nah, and I feel like they still gave me like some extra fights and everything, but when it was time for them to let me go, they let me go. So I mean, it's a business. So
And
yeah,
you-
don't give them all the favors. Don't take every short notice fight. And Sean Shelby called me the other day and he was like, "Man, we hate how the first one went. We hate how your first stint in there went, and we don't want that to happen. So we're not gonna offer you a bunch of short notice fights. This is gonna be the only one, and then we'll give you full camps on the rest of them." They called my managers and stuff. They want me to be back in there. So it wasn't like my management was going after them. They came to me and everything. So that's what made me do that they actually wanted me back and everything. Because they don't ever come to you. And then Sean Shelby actually called me personally. They don't ever call the fighter. Never. Not one time has Sean Shelby ever called me. I've talked to him in person at the fights, but that's rare. But for him to call me, I knew that they wanted me back, so that made me feel pretty good.
Yeah,
Well,
that's awesome.
that is. I mean, I bet that don't happen much.
Nah, none that I know.
Well, so kind of tell us what you've been doing in the past few weeks to like really train and prepare for your next fight. When is it? October 16th?
October 16th. Well, I've been in the feeder at UPS. That's the. I swear, I get in the. So I work at UPS now. That happened after I got out of the UFC. And what the feeder is the tractor trailer that they pull all the boxes in. So you can either load your truck, you have 3 trucks that you load, or you can be in the feeder, and that's where you and one other guy unload the truck, and you try to go pretty fast. And it's a workout, so I always volunteer whenever I have a fight coming up. Let me get in there, because you'll burn. I've worn my heart rate monitor in there and everything, and it's you burn about 1,500 calories in the morning just doing that. So you're already at a deficit. So that helps out a lot to losing the weight. So I do that, and then I just train. I get off work about 11 o'clock every day, and then I train for about 3 hours a day.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah, and training these kids on Monday nights. That's got to help you a little bit, huh? No, I'm just kidding.
No, but it's fun training kids.
Yeah, it is. It's been fun to watch. Our son, he's been training on a trip for like, what, a month now or something? And
Yeah, I think it's done 5.
That's all.
it's entertaining for us,
Oh,
you know,
man.
to watch.
He seems like he loves it.
Yeah, he
Getting,
does.
getting better, seeing results. I ain't never seen something like so quick.
Oh, yeah. So you've noticed?
I noticed.
That dude's got. He's the one out of all of them that tries the hardest as far as like technique.
Well, he don't want to let Uncle Brandon down.
Well, he tries. You can tell.
Yeah.
He wants to make sure Uncle Brandon thinks he did a good job.
Well, that's good. He's doing good.
So we're talking about what lessons you learned in the UFC that you would carry over forever. You know, it's a business. You got to get used to that. How are you going to play that out and now with your new contract?
Well, I've already, like I said, I've talked to Sean Shelby, and there aren't going to be. This is going to be the only short notice fight. Maybe if I get higher up and I'm already in shape or something, they offer me like somebody that's really good. And it's for some more money, then I'll do it then. But it has to be the right time and place. Other than that, I'm not doing anybody any favors. I'm looking out for number 1, number uno.
Uno.
You should.
But nah, that and just I'm not just in kickboxing. This is MMA, so make it MMA. Take some motherfuckers down every now and then.
There you go. Get their butt out real tight.
Well, so like looking back now on your first stint and everything that you've gone through, all the hard work that you've put in to get back into it, does it make it like a lot easier now? Are you more confident going in your second time around? You know, it's kind of like hindsight 2020 a little bit.
Confidence was never a problem the first time.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I'm not scared of any of these dudes, so that's never a problem. It's just the strategy of which I'll be fighting. I still have my technique's gotten better. My what's the word I'm looking for? A range of options of what I can do has gotten a lot wider. So I have a lot of different looks I can give and use, and if one isn't working, then I can abandon that for that fight.
You got a bigger arsenal.
Exactly. Right? You don't. It's like a Swiss Army knife. You want to have every option there available. Before I was still a brown belt in jiu-jitsu when I was in there the first time. I just didn't use my jiu-jitsu. I was a good wrestler. I just don't use my wrestling. Now I just, instead of having 3 different knives sitting around, or a knife and a screwdriver and all separate, put all that together in one little Swiss Army knife, and I use it all together.
Yeah.
And if you watched my last few fights since I've been out of the UFC, you'll notice that.
No doubt.
Except for the one with Brad Kelly, we agreed like in the middle of the fight, like, we're not taking each other down. Let's fight.
Let's throw them hands.
Yeah, it's exactly what we said.
I wanted to say that about that Zabit fight. He didn't want them hands.
No,
he didn't want those
he thought he
hands.
did. Everybody else thought he did.
So, I heard a very good quote today in my leadership class that I've been doing once a month or once a week. It was from John Maxwell. I might just have to read this straight off a piece of paper. I'm sorry, but I thought of you whenever I heard it. So, what he said was, if you're succeeding in everything you do, and they're probably not pushing yourself enough, and that means you're not taking enough risk. Because I know you like to take risks. You got to risk because you have something of value and you want to achieve it. I don't know why they hit me. I just thought, I was like, God damn, Brandon. Taking all those last minute fights, he ain't scared to risk it. He had something to achieve. He wanted to get there. So I thought I wanted to say it. Right? But so outside of the UFC, I know it's a little corny, it's a little personal. But outside of the UFC, after that deal, whenever you fought Brad and all that, you absolutely dominated every single fight outside of the UFC. And getting back under contract, I know that had to be your main, motivator, goal, outside your family. I know getting back to that UFC contract had to be your motivator. Now that you're there, what's your motivator now?
Stay in.
Stay in.
Stay in. I want to be the champ, but I got to stay in to be the champ. So, there's a saying that I remember, and even I got in a message from one of my buddies, Dean Toy, owns an organization in Florida, and he matchmakes for PFL and everything. And he was like, man, congrats. It's hard to make it in. It's harder to get back in the second time. But when I was at Uriah Favors one time, from Danny Castillo, he told me, man, it's hard to get in. It's harder to stay in. And then once you get cut, it's harder to get back in that second time. So I've seen it happen with my buddy Chase, and I saw him get back in. I was like, man, there's no way I'm not getting back in.
It's possible.
Well, yeah, I know it's possible anyways. Even if he wasn't getting back in, I'm getting back in. There's no way these dudes out here are good enough to keep me from getting back in. And if you go and watch my fights in the UFC, you see that I belong there. I might not win all of them, but I belong there. And I don't know. You couldn't tell me that I wasn't getting back in. If it wasn't for I had an interview right after I got released and everything, and they're like, how long do you think it'll be before you get back in? I said, a year. I said, I think I can get back in a year. Well, then coronavirus hit, and it put off my fight from April until September. And since September, it's been almost exactly a year since I was actually able to fight. So when I had my first fight until when I got signed, it was almost exactly a year. Now it's been 2 years completely, because my last fight in the UFC was 2 years ago. But I didn't get to fight for a year because coronavirus was putting it off. You couldn't fight anywhere. But when I did get the chance to fight, I had my 4 fights in that year, and 4 fights in less than a year, 8 months, and I made the best of it and got back in a year, I guess, if you
Yeah.
put it that way.
So now that you are back in the big show, what is your goal? What does success look like for you? What is your definition of success right now with what you got ahead of you?
At 135, I think I could definitely beat the champ. There's not
Take the belt.
Oh, 100%. But also make pretty good money to just support my family and all that. I don't know if I'll ever stop working at UPS, at least for anytime soon. If I'm not making $1 million a fight, then I mean their insurance and stuff is too good. Like,
Well, you've always been like the smartest guy in the class too. It ain't like you got plenty of options.
but I think I'll still be working there, and at least for the foreseeable future for now, because you still make good money there, and the insurance is crazy good. So I want to always be able to let my family be able to have dental and all that. And I mean, I can pay for that pot with my money I make off the UFC, but my goal is to not even use any of this money from the UFC. Let that, I mean, as far as like for personal use, because it's going in my LLC anyways, use that, buy some rental property or something to make the money work for itself. And then I use my money from UPS and working at the gym and sponsors and everything. And that's what we live off of and have a good time. But even now, like right now, I work at the gym and I do these privates and everything. That's the money that I use for me to have fun or whatever, the family to have fun, me to have fun. Money I get at UPS is bills and all that. I separate it from there. So now that I'm getting back in here, all that money is going to be untouched except for going towards business. You know what I mean? So
Good for you, man. Savvy businessman over here.
Well, that's what I was asking him that question for, because I want to know, like, he has a plan.
Yeah.
He knows where the money's coming in, he knows where the money's going to go, he knows where he needs to put that money to be able to live the lifestyle him and his family want to live. That is exactly, like, kudos, brother.
appreciate that.
Well, do you have any advice to any other young business men and women who are going through hard times? You know, how to get through adversity, just how to keep pushing on, pushing forward like you have?
Man, when everything seems like you hit rock bottom, you can't go down any farther than that. So, might as well pick yourself up and keep going. And when you do get to where you want to go and you're making good money and doing all this, don't just buy the first thing you see that's nice and shiny that you like. Don't buy your favorite car. Put that money towards something else and let that money make money for you, and then use some of that money to buy what you want. But always have a source of income where you're not actually having to work for it.
Well said.
I was gonna say, that ain't the first time I've ever heard, like, make your money work, make your money buy you what you want.
Yeah.
Don't pay for it with that money, make it buy you.
Mm-hmm.
But, well said, brother, well said. Man, thank you so much for coming back on the show with us.
I appreciate y'all having me.
I cannot wait till October 16th, see my boy do some damn damage, no doubt. So,
I guess before we get out of here, kind of tell our listeners, I know that, you know, where they can go to find out more about you and tune in on October 16th.
Yeah, if you have Instagram or Twitter, it's at Brandon Davis UFC. I never changed that, even when I was out there. And I had some people like comment on there, you need to change your name. Like, why do I need to change my name? Because what y'all think? For one, I was in the UFC, so it's not like I'm telling a lie. I'm not saying I'm in there now. And then two, I don't remember where I was going with that.
but no, that makes sense.
But two, I felt like I was getting back. So, but yeah, Instagram and Twitter is at Brandon Davis UFC. I have a Facebook thing. It's Brandon Killer B Davis, but I don't really go on there too much. If it's posted on there, it's because it comes off of Twitter and automatically posts on there. I fight October 16th. There won't be any fans, so it's going to be at the UFC Apex, but it will be on ESPN Plus. I want to say the fights start at 4 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know what fight I am yet. They don't have that lined up yet because I still got to fill out all my paperwork. But once they have that, I'll post it on my Instagram. So go follow one of those and
Yep, absolutely.
make sure to watch. I'm trying to run through this whole division and make my money.
There you go.
Well, congratulations again. We're super excited for you. Thank you for being on our show.
Oh yeah, thank
Again.
you.
Man, thank you so much, Brandon. Like, appreciate you being on here, or letting us be here, actually.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we've talked about how to overcome adversity, you know, how to keep things going. If you didn't learn something from this, you need to go back and listen again. 100%.
No doubt.
No doubt.